Welcome to episode 5 with the Download with D-Lo. I'm here with my man Wyatt, Lovera,
Sir,
broker owner of the Dwelling Collection, and I'm so happy to have you. Thank you.
thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a nice drive out here. Honestly, it was quick and easy from Cherry Creek, but it's fantastic. Definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, man. Well, I want to kind of introduce you to the audience here. Kind of tell us about yourself, like where you come from, what do you do, who are you?
Oh, the background deep dive. So my brother and I, Alex, we grew up in Aruba, born in Miami. We both kind of came to school in Denver. That's what originally brought us here. We had known about Colorado for a long time because we were lucky enough to come out and ski a few times with our family. So it was always kind of like a family place for the holidays that we really looked forward to. And then originally, when I was deciding to go to school, so I played a lot of tennis growing up. So I played college tennis in school throughout my 4 years too. So we can dive into some of that. But I actually didn't want to come to Denver because my brother was already here. He was kind of doing his thing. And
You guys have like some beef?
we had no beef. We're like very close. We worked together. We've lived together multiple times in different spots. And it was just like the tennis program was a little smaller. I kind of wanted like the Big Ten field, the sports kind of vibe. And but at the end of the day, I think when I really wanted to make the decision, it came back to having my brother already here. So like ironically, it is part of like what brought me here because at the end of the day, we're very close. So it would have been colossal mistake to not have those 4 years together. So I ended up here and pretty much fell in love with Denver as most of us have and stayed ever since. And we're going on year 11 now in Denver. So yeah.
And now, like for your business, what do you do in Denver? So as an owner,
I'm glad
entrepreneur.
I can actually just set it out there because the way I think we operate, we're doing a lot of different things at once. A lot of friends of mine, even people I'm close with, they'll see like one side and then they're confused all of a sudden when something else comes up.
Right.
But basically, my day-to-day is I own and manage the Dwelling Collection. At the moment, we operate as a non-licensed apartment locating company, and we have a marketing arm as well. So we help our agents kind of boost up their revenue and do all that stuff. So I manage agents, I manage people, manage our production, have the oversight on that. I myself am licensed. I'm licensed KW right now, KW Park Meadows. So I have that side of the business for me personally. And then my brother and I do kind of the development side of real estate, development and lending side together. And that's something that have always kind of done together from the start. Those are the three kind of lanes.
And like the developing portion, can you touch base like a little bit more on that?
Yeah, we both have a pretty strong construction background. Alex has the GC side. Myself, I actually worked full-time as a construction superintendent, front end, back end, lead superintendent for Richmond American. So I did that side of it. I've been a framing foreman. I've done the construction gamut.
So you're a handyman.
I'm a handyman without tools because I'd rather not. I put my time in on the construction side to really learn it in the sense that I thought it was critical to have that skill, as painful as it was to acquire it.
It's invaluable. I mean, even like, when you have a home, things break, there's going to be able to fix that
all the time.
by yourself.
All the time. And it's being able to speak to people, if you do bring in help, understanding what they're talking about, having that ability to negotiate and dissect certain things. So we kind of focus on that. It comes from the family. We really have, the good fortune of having an example to look at. My father and previous generations, even before that, kind of on the developing and construction side. So as much as I wanted to kind of venture my own route, I ended up doing that because it's kind of what I grew up with and what I actually ended up loving. So so on that side of it, my brother and I have done some ground up construction. So a lot of the things that we manage right now are our own projects that we really built up from the ground up, and that kind of brings together that entire package of understanding construction, understanding finance. More so, my brother's is fantastic on that side. So we kind of bring those superpowers together and make something out of it. And now we manage what we have.
Now, was that like a fairly easy, move to make with like the background you guys have?
Man, I wish it was. We honestly, the majority of it, as prepared as I think we might have thought we were, the majority of that process, specifically on the six townhome project that I'm talking about, a lot of that was just learning on the go. I think we were more prepared to deal with some of the issues that came up because of our background. Maybe that's something where other people would have probably thrown their hands up and sold the project and crumbled, because there were plenty of times when that could have happened. So I think our background helped us kind of sustain, but it definitely didn't make it, I think, any easier than it would have been for someone with less experience on that side.
Now, how did you guys overcome, like, what were some of the obstacles you guys had to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, we had everything from your go-to construction hurdles. I'm talking difficult inspection items. That was something that I was comfortable with coming from the Richmond American side of things, but it was still very difficult to deal with that. Then my brother dealt with multiple counties at once, because we were building on the Denver side of Sheridan, sharing that with Lakewood. Sheridan is a CDOT road, so we actually had two counties and a third entity, all public entities. We actually shut down Sheridan to open Sheridan up to connect our new sewer line. So things like that you just couldn't really have foreseen. We had planned to do that, of course, but until you're in it and you're dealing with those counties and that kind of communication and the amount of money that's at stake when you do open up a road like that for not being able to get that done. Things like that we were presented with leading up to that, I think were kind of eye-openers, of course. And then dealing with neighborhood issues we've had during the construction process that is just
Like,
unbelievable amount of break-ins during construction pre-occupancy, really. Thank goodness we've kind of been able to stabilize and get those units leased up, and now those problems have gone away. But
how did you like take care of that?
yeah, a lot of it, a lot of it's gonna sound silly and funny, but my brother has spent nights sleeping there in his car. I've made rounds at ungodly hours in the morning time in my truck, when I had a truck, going around there and walking through there. We have had conversations a few blocks from us, really on the Colfax and Sheridan kind of intersection. There is the real kind of mecca, unfortunately, for homelessness in the area. And we just took it upon ourselves to just go out there and talk to people, because we understood that these issues were coming out because people, it's basic needs that aren't being met, and they were breaking in to stay warm and things like that. So at some point, we really just went straight to the groups of people that we were observing coming through our property, and we were just having a conversation with them. So we were standing out there and just talking to them and just asking them not to destroy property, essentially, is what it came down to. So just being super, super crafty and just, putting our needs kind of at the top of our list to make sure that we got it done.
So taking those extra hours to make sure it happens.
Yeah, extra time, extra effort, very unscripted. It's the stuff that, if you were doing it for someone else, you would never do it, but it is our own. We had our personal interest in there, not only as developers, but as part owners as well, and as ultimately property managers leading up to completion. We had all that in the pipeline, so we had, this goal of having this property be a part of our business. And to get through that, we were pretty much willing to do anything at that point, because we had to have it done. So that's kind of what we landed on.
That's crazy, man. And now, what's been like the best part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best part is, I think, actually looking back. It's definitely not in the moment, because it really just sucks. It's just astronomical delays. You can throw your projections out the window pretty much. I think we do a good job of landing near the mark, but we truly, there's certain delays and certain things that you just can't foresee. And so looking back on it, the best part is seeing that we got it done. We can kind of sit down and share a moment whenever we talk about, I could be here for hours talking about different stories, interactions, break-ins, contractor issues. My brother and I became
And now,
HVAC specialists.
even though your brother's a GC, you guys are still having contract
Oh, yeah.
issues. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's a people's game. It's a people's game, and at the end of the day, we have been subcontractors ourselves, so I think it's a big edge for us. So we understand that struggle of it. But at the end of the day, when things go wrong on the kind of development side of things, and we're delayed, and we can't charge whatever phase we're trying to charge, then we can't pay the sub whatever they're due as well, and they're rightfully due. Then it just turns into a people's game. You're having those conversations, and you're trying to give them context as to why. Some people take it well and some people don't. Right. And we get that as well. So I've never been the type to have hard feelings when a subcontractor kind of flies off a wall, because I've been there too, unfortunately. And I've reacted poorly as well. So it was a lot of that. I think my brother's background, my background helped a ton.
Help you understand better.
Yeah, it helped us really understand. It helped us talk the talk and understand, truly know what we're talking about and be able to level with people. If you're not able to level with people, I think you kind of lose the relationship pretty quickly. And so we did our best. I mean, we would go above and beyond in my book in terms of doing all kinds of personal payments, right? Just to keep people kind of, at bay and happy enough to come back and do the work to get complete. And then we'd always, front that personally if we had to, wait to get paid ourselves and things like that.
How important has honesty been, like, in the process?
Yeah.
Like keeping those deals together?
Yeah, I think my brother and I have this dynamic where he tends to be like the more kind of a hard ass or hardo, and I tend to be more of the leveler. I think we both come from the same place, which is essentially that we're just trying to get it done and treat people right. So we kind of bounce off each other that way. But for me, I always want to meet in person. I think that's probably my biggest thing with contractors or with anyone that we're getting into kind of a tight or uncomfortable situation with. I'd rather meet in person. I think a lot of people default to just checking a box and just sending out an email or sending out a text or a call even. And it's just not the same. I think once you get face-to-face with someone, you can kind of read the emotions from both sides and just kind of lay it all out there. So we've always been on the side to kind of over-disclose and try to help contractors understand where we're at and why XYZ payment isn't happening or is happening, and go from there. And we do it. The honesty is the central kind of part of the entire operation at that point, because if you lose that, if you lose the trust, it doesn't matter what you say at that point.
Right.
And you're dealing with people that definitely on a project of that size at any given moment, that can truly be the difference between them paying their bills or not, which understanding that part of it as well helps with the honesty side of it. I think they kind of feed each other, because you don't have a choice but to be honest at that point. So
yeah. And now you have so many different like arms of real estate business that you're in. Like, let's talk a little bit more about the apartment locator.
Yeah.
What
I love it.
into that?
I love it. That's the most exciting part. Really came about a few years back. We had first heard about it from a mutual friend that is now working with us and now a locator with us. Kind of put it on our radar, looked at it. Thought it was interesting. It's essentially, finding apartments, finding ideal apartments, finding the best deal for a person and getting paid to do so by that building. So it's a free service to the customer. So that side of it kind of really resonated with me. I don't like being a salesman, right? Truly. So like even on the traditional side, I like doing the buy side because I'm not charging my client. So because of that resonated the most. And then about a little over a year back, a friend of my brother's kind of brought it up to us again and said, hey, Denver is a market where this is doing really well and there's a bunch of locators. I started looking around, started seeing kind of the players, seeing the field, and then I understood that we could kind of do our own version of it, which was to bring the traditional and locating side together, and really mesh this idea of caring before someone's ready to buy a first home. And that nailed it for me. I was ready to kind of go all in and push it all the way, because as a person that's struggled with certain clients not being able to qualify or get into a home, I've always wanted to be like, hey, here's this other avenue that we could start you on and at least get you kind of in the system, start getting you some resources, and then we can kind of revisit after your lease term. So
they can't buy a home. It's actually a way they can rent, be monitored, and you can help
Yeah.
them build that
Yeah.
budget and build that money to actually buy a home down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it brings them into our database, which anyone that's in our database is getting newsletters with a ton of information, an open book. I love providing value and as many resources as possible. I think the number one issue right now for young people is not that it's not obviously money is a massive part and is going to drive everything, but unfortunately the lack of information and lack of knowledge is an even bigger hurdle. Because people have kind of locked down and decided that they can't afford a home and they're just not even looking. So that's the part that kind of turned on, light bulb moment, and I wanted to chase that and go after that with that arm.
And now you were saying that you actually have the apartment building pay you to do your job. And how is that going to benefit like someone who wants to work with you in finding a home?
Yeah, so
temporary.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is getting them started with a lease. I think it's everyone's step one, of course, but getting them in the system and basically having checkpoints with that person from when they do start their lease to the end of their lease, where we're telling them we basically have our own system, our lead nurturing system, where we're taking people through kind of a knowledge base, leading them all the way up to what it looks like to buy your first home. Obviously not everyone is going to take that path for their own reasons. And then we can always kind of help them renew their lease, move again, put that all together. We're basically just trying to take that burden off of needing to spend time finding a place. And then if you're not from Denver and you don't know Denver as well as we might, taking that risk away of not knowing what a rush hour looks like off of Colorado Boulevard, and your building is on Colorado Boulevard, something like that. Yeah, like stuff like that. I think people outside of Denver benefit massively from that because we can tell them, and we have enough options that we can easily tell someone that comes to us and sends us a building. We can give them our feedback, and we can tell them, hey, here's 3 other options that are just as good. And here's the deal, the deal they're offering. Here's a cashback. We offer a cashback program as well on our side. So we basically just try to take the risk off the table and provide as much knowledge on home buying as possible for our people.
That's awesome.
Yep.
My next question is one that's like I super hold dear because that's why I kind of got into real estate, is like to have that free lifestyle, where I can be with my family and also make a living. So how has real estate created freedom in your life?
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword. It's definitely it's the freedom. It's definitely the freedom of movement. Because you're not submitting a PTO form, you're not checking in for your lunch hour or whatever it is. However, sometimes you can't take PTO when you really want to or really should. And if you do, quote unquote, take PTO, you end up just working,
missing opportunities.
And it's just part of it, which I totally get. And I think that's probably the biggest hurdle for people is, they see all the cool videos and clips on Instagram, and it's just, it really, really sucks sometimes. And I can't overstate that enough. Like I make fun of people watching clips, but at the same time, I watch a lot of clips. But there's a clip from Elon Musk where he talks about trying to describe what entrepreneurship was like, and I've watched it legit close to 100 times. He describes it as eating shards of glass some days, and that's pretty close to being able to verbally describe what it feels like. It's hitting your stomach, especially in construction, especially in some of the stuff we're doing, which is less traditional. Until you're comfortable feeling like you might not be able to pay the people and the dues and things that you need to pay the following month because you just, whatever deal fell through or whatever came up. We've gone through lawsuits on construction side of things. We've gone through all kinds of stuff you don't plan for. Until you get comfortable might not be the right word, until you're accepting that that's just the way it's going to be for a while. And that sometimes it just feels like physical crap.
Yeah.
Until you
you're just going to kind of have to get comfortable being uncomfortable all the time.
Yeah. I can't overstate that side enough, but I think the joy that you get from it actually working out in those moments outweighs that, to be honest. So the freedom of seeing the vision and then having those wins come through and understanding that you are doing it for something longer term. And you know, when you get to a point of thinking about family and things like that, I think all the work and kind of true stress that you go through is worth it. And so that's for me the biggest fuel, is to be like, hey, you know, we're on the front end of this, and you just gotta kind of plow through, and things slowly get better, and you can start seeing the business take shape. It takes years, not months. And I think that's the thing people get caught up on, any independent contractor, entrepreneur. So for me it's that part. And I've had examples to look at, which I'm super grateful for, that kind of can remind me to say, hey, you know, you're 28, you're not 68.
Yeah.
And and you can still do it. And it's as soon as things start taking shape, which, you know, we're in a place where they are now, it feels amazing, and it makes it super worthwhile.
Yeah. I was just, you know, this weekend I was over seeing my best friend get married with his wife back at home.
Yeah.
In Northern California. It was a amazing time. But it's funny because, you know, before we went to the ceremony, I was literally working on a pre-approval, finishing one up and sending out some numbers on another property when they're shopping around with some buyers.
You got to do it.
So it's just like
there are no hours. And I think if you get in the mentality of calculating what your hourly rate is, you're done. Like, you're done for. You're gonna compare yourself to a minimum wage worker, because like sometimes it's like that. Yeah. It just doesn't feel like it, because to me, you know, you go in, you have kind of your high production hours during the day, and then things come up at night. You're looking at your phone, you're emailing, or you're following up on stuff. For me, at least, I get caught up a lot. My girlfriend will check me a little bit, but she's amazing. She supports it fully, but it's just the way it is. Like, sometimes, you know, you start planning ahead for the next day, and then all of a sudden you're in bed and you're creating to-do lists and you're doing all kinds of things. So
yeah,
it's just part of it.
You know, it's a rare time when you get your brain to stop. That's why for me, like, meditation is so important, to like get your mind right before the day. You know, just like programming yourself for success.
It's massive. You really have to start thinking about it as an athlete would, because it's the only way you can sustain and make it through. Because or else you can have all the hustle mentality you'd like, but as soon as stuff starts going wrong, and it goes wrong for a prolonged period of time, if you don't have something to kind of come back to and be consistent with, that you can be proud of every day, such as your own kind of routine, whatever it is. Right. It can be anything. But if you don't have that, it's really hard to make it through the years. So
now, like, what advice do you have for, you know, aspiring brokers or owners? What would you give them?
Yeah, I think number one is, we talked about this in a class I was in the other day, actually. Things tend to take longer than you expect. That's everything. That's deals. That's whatever money you think you're going to make. It's going to take longer. So just accept that on the front end. And if you're going to go for it, it sounds cliche to throw out plan B, but I've been in a place where I've had plan B and I've jumped kind of back and forth, and it never works. If you're going to do it, give yourself X amount of years, emphasis on years. Okay.
Deadline.
Give yourself a deadline, and then revisit it the next day and add another 30 to 40% on top of that time-wise. And then just dive in and go all in. And by go all in, I mean talk to as many people as you can. Go on podcasts, do whatever you can to get out and have those conversations, because ultimately I think anything in real estate and brokering and construction it's word of mouth, network, who you know that can connect you to somebody they know, vice versa. That goes around, and I think that part of it gets missed on people that start out. They just, you know, you go head down into the work that you're doing. You really missed out for those early years. You miss out on how important the networking part of it is, regardless of the type of business. I think the networking part is as soon as you can kind of alleviate some of your time by paying some people to do some of the work that you're caught up on, you have to make that plunge and give that work to someone that can do it, hopefully as well as you're doing it, so that you can go focus on what being a business owner means, which is meeting people and putting together kind of bigger opportunities, bigger deals for your team. I think that's massive.
Yeah, and I definitely, feel this when I say your net worth is your net worth.
Yeah, 100%.
We always talk about it, but if I didn't surround myself with the people I have today, I don't think I'd be where I am right now.
100%.
It's finding how you can add value to the
Yep.
people in your circle.
Yeah. If you lead with that, I think that's probably the other piece of advice is, I don't know if it's our generation or what it is, or maybe it's just my own theory, but I think we get caught up on in our 20s. For some reason we're so caught up in what we're making per month, which makes no sense to me. Because if you're really into building a business, you got to throw that out the window. Stop comparing yourself to your finance buddies. Stop comparing yourself to the people that have these great paying base salary stable jobs, because you're not that.
Right.
And until you get that part right, you're not going to last, because you have to accept that part and just understand that for the majority of your 20s, if you're doing this correctly, you're going to grind and struggle, and sometimes the pay doesn't match the effort, and that's okay. You don't need to be compensated fairly, unfortunately, as a business owner.
If you want to get ahead.
Yeah, so you got to kind of take that up front and get out there and meet as many people as you can, and understand that it'll pay off eventually, but you have to be willing to do that for a few years.
All right, switching up the topics a little bit here. Can you give us like one of the craziest real estate stories that you have?
Okay.
Yeah, in developing, or craziest thing you
Just one.
just want. Or I want the craziest.
Oh boy. So I'm gonna skip the development stories with the break-ins and all that, because it's just a series of stories, and that might be too long. I'll go to our first flip. It was in Knox Court. Blanking on the number right now, but it was first flip. My brother and I jumped on it. We were hired as contractors, so we had no part of the brokerage, no part of any equity. We were just there to do the grunt work and get through it.
Home house.
Yeah, so we
Swing some hammers.
Yeah, swing some hammers. So we had a good network of contractors from our work as flippers for Zillow. So we had a good group, but we didn't know fully what we were doing. So we get into the first flip. First issue we run into, where the story begins and ends, is the person that was occupying the home wasn't leaving, essentially. And so that kind of stayed over their post-occupancy period. The person had no intention of agreeing to anything. They were pretty much at a point where they were throwing their hands up and they were willing to do anything. And so we get there and we're just trying to start the work, because we couldn't get our payment until we did the demolition phase, right?
Right.
So, and then back then, that was the one project we had going. And so it was pretty much everything for us. So we get there and we're basically trying to talk to this lady to get her to leave. And eventually she agrees. But the day we were scheduled to start, we show up with our crews and she's still there. So we say, hey, you really have to go. We're going to start working, and it's best that you're not around if we start working. And she had an RV kind of parked out front, which remained there for a prolonged period. So she actually stayed there, just not in the house. So we get there early in the morning. She starts exiting and taking all her stuff. We hear straight up horror story yelling, horror movie yelling going on in the house. And I'm just like, oh man, we see, no one wanted to go in because we were scared shitless. She comes out the back with blood just gushing all over her arm. And I'm just like, this can't be our first split, first day, this is happening. And she starts yelling about some kind of animal in the house. So she couldn't talk. She was in shock, pain, whatever it was. Ambulance comes rolling up. It's a whole scene. Neighbors are out. We go in because then, the paramedics don't want to deal with an animal. It's not their job either. I can't remember if someone called animal control or not, but we go in and she had a giant raccoon as a pet.
Oh, how big was it?
It was the size of this table. So there's our workers, our guys were like, nope, we're not doing it. You're not paying us to deal with this. And I'm just like, oh man. So we ended up having to corral this giant raccoon that got out and had attacked its owner.
You guys have sticks or something?
Yeah, so it was she had a cage for it, so she had a setup. It was just out, and this thing It could take me down. It might not take you down, but it'll take me down. So that was just like pure shock. And it was just like everything from there is par for the course.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's been a great time having you.
Thank you.
For people wanting to find you on social media, where should they find you?
Yeah, my personal Instagram is boring. I keep it. You'll see a lot of good food, my girlfriend, some real estate. But it's Wyatt Lovera. You can find our locating stuff, which is a little more active, on Denver Apartments on Instagram as well. And then on LinkedIn, we're actually doing like a live tracker. It's basically we're holding ourselves and saying, hey, this is our goal for the year. And I go in twice-ish a week, and I give an update as to where we're at with production and people that we've helped get into apartments. So I'd find us there on Denver Apartments as well. You'll find us there. So those would be the spots.
My man.
Always a pleasure. Yeah, always a pleasure.